So there was a security guard on the dock, which was good. Because now that the Manta IV had been docked there, you know what I mean? The Eddie had put 2 guards, one in the daytime and one in the nighttime. Because my boat was there, David's boat, Dive Dreams, was there, and the Manta IV was there. And there was also a couple of other, there was 8 or 10 docking berths. And so for people who had come to stay at the Belize Yacht Club with boats, they had docked their boats in there. So there was a couple of nice big sailboats in there as well. So the guards were then employed and sent down to make sure that nobody was getting on the boats, nobody was stealing anything, nobody was diving around the boats or anything like that. And the guards would sit there with a big fucking machete and or a big club. And these guys weren't shy about jumping in the water and giving you the good news, you know. So it was good. One of the guards was called Sugar. This guy was as black as night, and he dressed in black, and you couldn't see him. He dressed in like black military gear, and he had dreadlocks, and he had a black beanie on, and this guy would just camouflage into the night, and he would just all of a sudden fucking pop out or say something, and you would literally jump out of your skin. Sugar was a nice guy. Spoke a few languages, spoke Spanish, Portuguese, French, English, of course Creole, Spanish. Depending on who he was talking to, he changed his voice, he changed his accent. Sugar knew it was me. Good evening, Mr. Colin, before I'd even got 10 feet down the dock. And I was like, because I was always expecting Sugar to be there. Evening, Sugar, how are you, buddy? You know what I mean? Like a cup of coffee? Yes, Mr. Colin. So I'd bring him in the dive centre, do a cup of coffee, sit down talking for a little bit. And he liked to sit on the Manta IV. He just got on the Manta IV and put a little cushion up, and he'd sit on the Manta IV, and he'd always ask, be respectful. I said, okay, if I sit on the boat, Mr. Colin? Yep, no problem at all. He would sit on the boat for 15 to 20 minutes, and then he would walk. He would patrol down the dock, which was 100 feet, 30 metres, and he would check everything, and he would, if there was anybody sitting down there, Sugar would politely go down and ask if everything was okay. He was never rude to people. Are you okay? Do you need anything? But it was mostly guests that were staying at the hotel, and there was a little, as I say, a swimming area down there, which was about 12 feet, and that's where I used to take my learner divers down to progress the skills once they started off in the shallow water. This evening it was nice and quiet. The music was playing in Bruce and Charlene's, which was just about 500 meters just from the Belize Yacht Club, and I could hear them in full swing and voices laughing and and having a good time and stuff. And you could hear the music down at Ramon's, which was about a quarter of a mile down from there. And the music, the island was just hopping. It was lovely. The atmosphere was electric, and there was always something happening. Always loads of people walking the beaches, loads of people skinny dipping, people just, tourists having a great time. And the murder on the island the year before had made a lot of people wary about coming down to Belize, but the Belize Tourist Board pushed for tourism, and people started coming back down again, and the island was prospering. So got another coffee and walked down the bottom of the dock and just sat on my own with my thoughts, just listening to the ocean just lapping on the reef about 100 meters, 200 meters away. The breeze was nice, the moon was coming up, the sun was setting down, the sky was pinky red, purple, blue. It was like the colors of it was lovely. It was the colors of the rainbow. Sun had been reflecting on the water, the blue water. It was lovely. And then you could just see the transition of the sun and the moon coming up. It was great, and I just felt torn in two. Was glad, really, really super glad that Andy had offered me a job and David pushed this for me. And I wanted to go to Miami. I haven't been up there for the day or so with David when I came over. Miami was just awesome. The smells and the sounds and the heat was kind of crazy, but I acclimatized to Belize really, really, really well. And so I didn't sweat that much. I had a really good tan, obviously I had a great diet down in Belize, and I was pretty shredded. I was pretty ripped at that time. The diving, 5 dives a day had ripped me up. That was a lot of cardio. taking a lot of nitrogen into my body, eating, you know, rice and beans and fish and rice, beans and curry goat and rice, beans and chicken, you know, and fresh fruit and fresh drinks and loads of water. Had really, really done me well, because I didn't drink alcohol, and I drank 3 or 4 cups of coffee a day. And I hit the gym every day. I was in the gym 7 days a week, and if I wasn't in the gym, I was doing push-ups on the dock, or I was doing push-ups and all my work exercises and stuff when I got out to Half Moon Key and Lighthouse Reef, depending on where we pulled in for the night. I was always training, always working out, and I was in really, really good shape. And I was pretty big, and all I gave a fuck about was scuba diving, eating, and fucking making money. And then I just wanted to leave. I'd had enough. So Miami was on the cards, and I sat and I thought about this, and I thought about Dave and how disheveled David looked. David was small. David was 5'6". You know what I mean? But he was a mountain of a guy. He was a beast of a man. He was big. You know, he was muscled. You know, big, solid monster of a guy. You know, crazy when he lost the plot. But the kindest and gentlest heart of anybody that had been in the Marines or in the SAS. You know, just a gentle bloke. And I was beginning to see Dave crack like a boiled egg, and I was conflicted. I felt like I was shitting all over Dave. I'd worked so hard to establish myself down there. I still hadn't seen fucking Sabbath. He wasn't going to get away with nothing. He was going to get the same good news as fucking Patojo and Gutsy got. So he was going to get smashed up no matter what. It should have taken me 10 years. I was still going to fucking smash him up, because he wasn't going to get away with it. He'd kicked David in the face, you know, and it wasn't anything to do with him, nothing to do with him. Just fucking kicked him in the face, and could have killed him, and, you know, broken his head, or, you know, anything like that. And he did it in front of Sue, you know, and she just didn't want David to retaliate. She didn't. Just let it go, you know. And David was. I was like, no. So David wasn't going to do it, and that meant that I was going to do something about it. But for now, it was time to leave. It was time to breathe some different air, as David said, and just to be somewhere else and experience new things, and you know, get to fly to these different islands. And David was like, "Oh, fucking go!" You know what I mean? Fucking don't worry about me. You know, I'm going to be here when I come back. The business is going to be here. I'm going to be here. You know, the diving's going to be here. You know what I mean? Don't fucking worry. Your job's always here, Cole. You know, you're important to me. He goes, apart from my family, he goes, you're number one. I'm putting you first. He goes, you know what I mean? And he says, you're always going to have a job with me, Cole. You know, yes, he goes, I've done this for you and done that. He says, but you've done so much for me. He goes, you know, you're the only person I've trusted down here. And that was true, and that was me for him as well. You know, Gary was a really, really nice guy, you know, but I've seen a different side to him. I've seen many sides to David. I've seen David's ugly side, I've seen his crappy side, I've seen his grumpy side. Because he was a grumpy fuck first thing in the morning. You couldn't speak to him. It would have snapped your head off, and it was best just to leave Dave alone, you know, for the first half an hour when he woke up and he had his 2 cups of coffee, and, you know, nothing existed. The world didn't exist. The universe didn't exist until David had his coffee and had his 30 minutes peace and quiet, and then, you know, and then the world was all of a sudden, you know, it was like the 7th day fucking of God making the earth. Everything just came to life, and everything was rosy in the garden. So I wasn't one bit fucking perturbed of not seeing Cal. You know, I would miss Ollie, because Ollie was a good kid. I liked working with him. Tim, you know, Rosie's dad, Tim, I missed him. Wasn't going to miss fucking Sue. Wasn't going to miss Amanda. Wasn't going to miss Taff. Wasn't going to miss none of them fuckers, you know. And so it was time just to breathe some fresh air. So sat down at the dock for a couple hours, just chilling on my own. And then a couple of Americans came down, and there was a little light where I was sitting. I turned the light on as they were walking down. I like to be in the dark. I just like to sit there and just think about things. I turned the light on, and, oh, are we disturbing? No, he says, no, come and sat down. I can't remember the names, and they sat with us. They sat with me. Can we join? Oh, yeah, come down. They had a couple of drinks and stuff. Can we get you a drink? No, you're okay. Like, you know, just really nice people. and they were coming on the Manta IV on Monday. So they were coming, and I introduced myself, and they were like, are you Colin, are you the dive master on the Manta IV? And I was like, yeah, that's the Manta IV down there. I said, yeah, do you want to come down and have a look at it? And I says, I live on it, come down and have a look at it. So yeah, we're gonna be coming on the trip, we're gonna, you know, we wanted to do this last year, you know, but you know, the bad weather, you know, and then we had that tropical storm and everything, and then they had a pretty bad time up in they were from Houston. They had a pretty shit time up there. They had hurricanes, and they lost part of the roof on the house, and the electricity had been gone out for a couple of weeks, and it was just fucking horrendous for them, you know. So this was their honeymoon, which was a year late. So it was nice. It was nice to have them coming on the trip. So I got up, we walked down, I invited them on the boat. They came on, I turned the lights on, took them into the cabins, showed them all the pictures from the movie, from Cocoon, where Tony Welsh's picture, Steve Guttenberg and all the crew, William Dennehy and everybody that had been there, you know, showed them the pictures of the Manta IV before the bridge was built and the canopy was extended. Give them a little rundown. All the fishing gear that was used in the movie was still there. They didn't allow anybody to touch it, take it and use it. There was fishing gear on the boat which was stowed down. Took them down to the shower area, the kitchen, the galley area, the bunks and everything, and they said they were looking forward to it. And I was telling them where we would be going to, the, you know, whether divers or snorkelers, both, you know what I mean. She snorkeled, he dove, and I was explaining how things were going to be run, the type of food. I said, you know, are you lactose intolerant? You know, is there any type of foods that you specifically want? No, they just were happy with whatever they got. I said, don't worry, there's plenty of alcohol. You know, key lime pie, coconut pie, chicken, lobster, you know, there's going to be, the food's fantastic. Yeah, you know, we've really heard about this. And it had been Chris in the Blue Hole Dive Centre that had sold him the trip. Yep, I know Chris very well. Chris is a good guy, you know, so it was great to have the company. We sat out on the deck, and we were just talking. We talked for about, it must have been a couple of hours, and then a couple more people came down, staying up there, and they joined us. You know, they went on the trip, but they joined us, and we were just talking, and they were interested with the Manta IV. Can we take pictures? And yeah, they were taking away pictures and stuff. And they were getting the boat as the sun, you know, it had really gone down, and it was just on the horizon. The moon was coming. It was just brilliant. So they were getting loads of photographs, and you know, and so they sat for an hour or so, and then everybody excused themselves. So I said it's time for me to, you know, check the boat's okay and make sure that make the list of things that we needed, check over the list and stuff, which was in the dive center just across from the boat. So I went and did a list, checked everything over, got undressed down to my shorts and fucking dove in. Went down to the end of the dock and dove in and swam for about 10 or 15 minutes. Got out. There was a little shower on the end of the palapa with a little tap, and that was tapped all the way underneath the dock to up to the hotel. Turned it on. Showered myself off, because there's nothing worse than sitting with caked salt on your skin. It's like sitting with sandpaper. So showered myself off, walked down, toweled myself off, and just sat on the boat. And I was just, everything was running through my mind. I just felt so guilty. Guilt would actually eat me up over Dave and leaving for a couple of weeks, and that wasn't like me. I really didn't feel guilty about stuff. But it was because David had, as I say, had taken care of me and given me that opportunity to go to Belize. If I had stayed at home, I don't know what I would have done. I don't know the type of person I would have been. I wouldn't have had these adventures. I wouldn't have been able to go to all the places in the world I'm going to talk about and do all the things that I've did, which I'm going to talk about later on as we progress. But anyway, the thought was on the trip coming up, and that was a very restless night for me. That night I slept out on the deck. I just brought a judo mat out. Usually I would just sleep in the cabin, and that night was a very restless night for me. I didn't sleep at all, and up and down to the end of the dock, up and down to the diving, swimming up and down to the end of the dock and stuff like that. It wasn't a good night for me at all. In fact, it was one of the worst nights ever. And then before I knew it, I'd kind of dropped off about 2:30 in the morning, and abruptly awoke at 6:30 with loads of people coming down the dock that were drunk from up in the Belize Yacht Club.